The tragic deaths and end of the Spinners members? You'll cry watching this. That will shock you. They sold over 20 million records, shaped the sound of soul music, and brought America to tears with their harmonies, but behind the spotlight, the Spinners were living a silent tragedy. Exploited, overlooked, and underpaid, their greatest hits came at the cost of broken dreams and forgotten lives. From backstage humiliation to dying in poverty, their story isn't just painful, it's enraging. Why did it take nearly 70 years for them to be honored? And what did it cost them along the way? Stick around, because this is Legends of Black Excellence, and today, we're uncovering the heartbreak behind the harmony. James Edwards. James Edwards was one of the original founding members of the Spinners, then known as the Domingos, in 1954. A teenage dreamer from Ferndale, Michigan, he helped lay the vocal foundation for what would become one of soul music's most beloved groups. But James never got to see that dream blossom. Just weeks after the group was formed, he made the painful decision to leave, not because of artistic differences or personal ambition, but because of the crushing burden of poverty. As the eldest child in a struggling family, James was forced to step away from music and take on full-time work to support his parents and 6 younger siblings. According to the group's oral history, one rainy night in October 1954, he packed his few belongings in a cheap suitcase, whispered a quiet apology to his friends, and disappeared from the group's future. It was a heartbreak that struck at the group's core before they had even recorded a single track. His departure marked the first great loss in the Spinners' story, a reminder that for many young black men in 1950s America, talent and ambition were often crushed by socio-economic realities. James Edwards may not have appeared on any album covers or gold records, but his presence in the group's earliest harmonies was real, and his exit symbolized the sacrifices countless unsung artists were forced to make. Little is known about James's life after he left the group. He faded from the public record, his story swallowed by time. There is no widely available official record of his birth or death, and thus his age remains unknown. But to those who remember the humble beginnings of the Spinners, James Edwards stands as the first quiet tragedy in a long line of heartbreaks. C.P. Spencer. C.P. Spencer was one of the original founding members of the Spinners in 1954, then performing under the name the Domingos. He was more than just a singer, he was the group's primary songwriter and musical compass in its formative years. Hailing from the same working-class neighborhoods as the rest of the group, C.P. brought not only talent but vision. In the earliest rehearsals held under leaky rooftops and between shifts at gas stations, he was the one sketching melodies and guiding harmonies that would one day echo across America. However, C.P.'s time with the group was cut short before the world ever got to hear his potential. In 1956, while the group was still struggling to gain traction and secure a professional recording contract, C.P. was offered a solo opportunity by a local producer. It came with a steady paycheck, creative independence, and promises of fame that the Domingos had not yet tasted. Faced with a difficult decision, he left the group quietly one rainy evening, leaving behind a handwritten note that simply read, "I need to move forward. Forgive me." His exit wasn't just the loss of a voice, it was a rupture in trust, a symbolic fracture in the brotherhood that had carried them through those tough beginnings. While George Dixon was brought in to replace him vocally, the creative void C.P. left behind was never fully filled. Though he reappeared later in the music scene, briefly branching out with another Motown group, the Originals, he never regained the platform or recognition he may have reached with the Spinners. His contributions were largely forgotten as the group found fame without him years later. On October 20, 2004, C.P. Spencer died of a heart attack in suburban Detroit. He was 67 years old. He passed away alone, without fanfare, in a modest apartment. There were no public tributes, no retrospective celebrations of his role in soul music history. His death, like his quiet departure from the group decades earlier, went largely unnoticed by the world. Yet for those who remember, C.P. Spencer was the soul behind the early soul, one of the original architects of the Spinners' legacy, whose pen and passion set the foundation for everything that followed. Billy Henderson. Billy Henderson was not only a founding member of the Spinners, but also its beating heart, a soulful tenor, a graceful dancer, and a quiet leader who held the group together during its most trying times. Born on August 9, 1939, Billy grew up in Ferndale, Michigan, where music offered escape from the monotony and hardship of working-class life. When the Domingos, the precursor to the Spinners, began forming in 1954, Billy was there from the start, committed to the vision even as the group's lineup shifted and dreams were constantly deferred. During the group's early years with Motown, Billy and his bandmates were treated as afterthoughts. They weren't given studio time or star treatment. Instead, they were tasked with backstage labor, hauling gear, cleaning dressing rooms, and even scrubbing mud off Diana Ross's boots. Billy swallowed the humiliation, holding tightly to his hope that one day, the world would hear his voice. That moment came in 1971. While cleaning a warehouse late one night, Billy stumbled across a discarded microphone. With no one watching, he began to sing, just as he had done countless times in the shadows. By chance, a sound technician from Atlantic Records overheard him. Days later, Tom Bell, the legendary Philadelphia soul producer, flew in to witness the magic himself. Billy's voice revived the Spinners, leading to the release of I'll Be Around, Mighty Love, and more. Despite their enormous success, financial reward never followed. Though the Spinners sold over 20 million records, Billy received only a fraction of what he deserved. In his later years, he filed lawsuits over unpaid royalties, hoping to reclaim even a portion of what he had earned. But justice never came. On February 2, 2007, Billy Henderson died from complications related to diabetes in a small Florida hospital. He was 67 years old. There were no cameras, no gold records, no press releases, just the fading beep of a heart monitor. Billy's voice helped define an era, but the system never gave back what he put in. He died quietly, just as he had lived, carrying the weight of the music industry's broken promises. Henry Famrow. Henry Famrow, often misspelled as Henry Famrow, was the longest-serving and most enduring member of the Spinners. Born on May 10, 1938, Henry helped found the group in 1954 and remained active for nearly 70 years, retiring only in 2023. His rich baritone voice, dignified stage presence, and unshakable loyalty made him the soul of the group across decades of hardship, change, and quiet triumph. In the early years, Henry wasn't just a singer, he was a survivor. When the Spinners signed with Motown, they were treated more like stagehands than stars. Henry was tasked with degrading jobs, scrubbing dressing rooms, hauling cables, and even cleaning off mud from the Supremes' boots while stars like Diana Ross passed by without acknowledgement. But he never quit. He endured years of humiliation in silence, practicing at night and clinging to the dream that one day, the world would recognize their talent. That recognition finally came in the 1970s when the Spinners found success under producer Tom Bell at Atlantic Records. Henry's voice graced hits like Could It Be I'm Falling in Love, Mighty Love, and I'm Coming Home. Yet despite the chart toppers and gold records, financial justice eluded him. Like his bandmates, Henry was tied to unfair contracts and watched as millions in profits vanished before reaching the group. After Billy Henderson, Bobby Smith, Purvis Jackson, and others passed away, Henry remained the final link to the group's beginnings. When the Spinners were finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023, 69 years after their founding, Henry was too frail to perform or even speak. He died in early spring of 2024, at age 85, in a nursing home in Sterling, Virginia. There were no grand tributes. Just quiet, grateful remembrance of a man who carried the weight of the group's legacy longer than anyone. Henry Famrow didn't just witness history, he was its last breath. Purvis Jackson. Purvis Jackson was the deep, resonant bass voice of the Spinners, anchoring their harmonies with soul, strength, and steadiness for nearly 5 decades. Born on May 17, 1938, he was one of the group's original members and remained a consistent presence through all the group's triumphs and trials. His signature, 12/45, spoken-word interjections and background vocals added an unmistakable flavor to the Spinners' most iconic records. In the early days under Motown, Purvis endured indignities that would have broken many. As the group was sidelined by the label, he was made to work backstage, not as a performer, but as labor. He cleaned venues, packed speakers, and was once even assigned to sanitize portable toilets at outdoor concerts. For a man whose dream was to hold a microphone, this was soul-crushing. But Purvis never let bitterness consume him. He persevered, believing that one day, the music would speak louder than the disrespect. That breakthrough came in the 1970s with their Atlantic Records era, when the Spinners became one of the most successful soul groups in America. Purvis's bass vocals grounded hits like I'll Be Around, Games People Play, and Rubber Band Man. His contributions were subtle but vital, his voice was the foundation beneath the soaring melodies. Even so, financial injustice followed him like a shadow. Despite millions of records sold, like his bandmates, Purvis saw very little in royalties. He remained with the group until the very end, never seeking the spotlight, always loyal to the harmony. Purvis Jackson died on August 18, 2008, at the age of 70, reportedly from cancer. His passing received limited media attention, and few outside the soul music world understood the depth of his contribution. But for those who listen closely, his voice remains, rumbling gently beneath every timeless Spinner's harmony, a bass line of memory and resilience. Bobby Smith. Bobby Smith was the unmistakable voice behind many of the Spinners' earliest and most beloved hits. Born on April 10, 1936, he joined the group in 1954, replacing original member James Edwards. While he may not have had the showmanship of others, Bobby brought emotional depth and smooth precision to the group's sound, often serving as the lead vocalist throughout the 1960s and 70s. Despite singing on classics like I'll Be Around, Could It Be I'm Falling in Love, and Love Don't Love Nobody, Bobby's contributions were frequently overshadowed. His voice was so seamlessly blended with the group style that fans often confused it with later frontman Philippe Wynne. This misidentification robbed Bobby of the recognition he rightfully deserved. Even in death, many continued to attribute his vocals to others. Early in their career, when the Spinners were still struggling under Motown's control, Bobby remained committed. He stayed with the group during its overlooked years, when the members were forced to do backstage labor instead of making music. And when Atlantic Records finally gave them a new chance, Bobby's steady presence helped carry them through their peak years of success. But the music industry never treated him fairly. Like his bandmates, Bobby suffered from unjust contracts, meager payouts, and a lack of control over his creative rights. After decades of touring and recording, he saw little reward for his work. He remained with the group into the 2000s, even as others passed or retired. In 2013, Bobby Smith died in Detroit from complications of pneumonia and lung cancer. He was 76 years old. Though he never received the public credit he deserved during his lifetime, true fans of soul music know that his was the voice that helped define an era. Quiet, steady, and soulful, Bobby Smith was the backbone of the Spinners' golden years. Philippe Wynne. Philippe Wynne was the electrifying frontman who helped catapult the Spinners to mainstream superstardom in the 1970s. Born on April 3, 1941, he joined the group in 1972, just as they began working with producer Tom Bell under Atlantic Records. With unmatched charisma, powerful vocals, and gospel-rooted intensity, Wynne transformed the group's performances and elevated their hits to soaring new heights. He was the voice behind The Rubber Band Man, One of a Kind, Love Affair, and many of the group's best-known songs. His live improvisations and emotionally charged delivery made him a standout even among legends. But Wynne was never fully satisfied. By 1976, creative frustrations began to boil. He felt restricted by Bell's polished Philadelphia soul arrangements and wanted more freedom to explore his own artistic style. Coupled with growing disillusionment over money, the group earned millions in revenue, but saw little in return. Wynne made a bold decision. In a now legendary moment, he slammed his music sheets onto a table and walked out of the studio, ending his time with the group at the height of their fame. He pursued a solo career with mixed success and briefly joined Parliament Funkadelic, bringing his signature voice to the funk scene. Tragically, Philippe Wynne died young. On July 14, 1984, while performing in Oakland, California, he collapsed on stage from a massive heart attack. He was just 43 years old. His death shocked fans but was only the beginning of deeper heartbreak. His son Alvarez was killed in a drive-by shooting in 1999, and his other son Emmanuel drowned while saving a stranger. There was no family left to receive Emmanuel's posthumous Carnegie Medal for heroism. Philippe Wynne lived, and died, like his voice, brilliant, unpredictable, and unforgettable. He burned bright and fast, leaving behind echoes of greatness and a trail of sorrow. G.C. Cameron. G.C. Cameron was the man behind one of the Spinners' earliest breakout singles, It's a Shame, released in 1970. Born on September 21, 1945, Cameron's silky voice and commanding range made the track a standout hit at a time when the group was still buried in Motown's shadows. Co-written and produced by Stevie Wonder, the song marked the first time the Spinners pierced the mainstream, a glimpse of what was to come. Cameron's contributions, however, were short-lived. After recording only one album with the group, he left the Spinners in pursuit of a solo career. While his vocal abilities were widely respected, rich, smooth, and versatile, his solo path proved difficult. The music industry was shifting rapidly, and soul singers without strong label support struggled to find sustained success. Still, Cameron persevered, experimenting with different styles, including a fusion of soul and reggae, and releasing several underappreciated albums. In 2000, Cameron rejoined the Spinners briefly, filling in for the ailing John Edwards. He performed with the group during a transitional period, offering both familiarity and stability with his seasoned voice. But by 2003, he left once more, this time to join the Temptations, another iconic soul group. Though the move stirred interest, it came too late in an industry now dominated by hip-hop, pop, and electronic music. By the early 2000s, G.C. Cameron had become a wandering legend, respected but overlooked, deeply talented yet displaced by changing times. As of June 2, 2025, G.C. Cameron is 79 years old and remains largely out of the public eye. His name may not appear often in headlines, but true fans of classic soul recognize him as a bridge between eras, a man whose voice once hinted at greatness, and whose journey reflects both the triumphs and heartbreaks of the Spinners' legacy. Harvey Fuqua. Harvey Fuqua was a pivotal figure in American soul music, both as an artist and behind the scenes as a producer and record executive. Born on July 27, 1929, he first rose to fame as the founder and lead singer of the Moonglows in the 1950s. But his most controversial and lasting impact came later, when he became an executive at Motown and launched his own label, Tri-Fi Records. In the early 1960s, the Spinners signed to Tri-Fi, thinking they had finally found their big break. Their first hit, That's What Girls Are Made For, reached number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1961. However, industry insiders soon whispered that the lead vocals on the track weren't sung by Bobby Smith or any group member, but by Fuqua himself. While Fuqua never publicly confirmed this, the group's awkward silence during a press conference, including Billy Henderson avoiding eye contact and Purvis Jackson clenching his fist, only fueled the rumor. If true, this act symbolized a deep betrayal. The Spinners had poured their souls into the song, only to be replaced on their debut single by their own label boss. Fuqua may have believed he was ensuring quality, but the damage to the group's confidence was irreversible. This early deception would foreshadow a pattern of exploitation the Spinners endured for decades. Outside of his work with the Spinners, Fuqua was instrumental in developing the careers of Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, and he played a major role in shaping the Motown sound. Despite his accomplishments, his legacy remains complicated, marked by both brilliance and controversy. Harvey Fuqua died on July 6, 2010, from a heart attack in Detroit. He was 80 years old. Even in death, his name evokes debate, remembered as both a musical architect and the man who may have stolen the spotlight from a young group's first moment of glory. Tom Bell. Tom Bell was the mastermind behind the elegant sound that defined Philadelphia soul in the 1970s, and the man who resurrected the Spinners' career from near extinction. Born on January 26, 1943, in Kingston, Jamaica, and raised in Philadelphia, Bell was already a celebrated producer and arranger when he crossed paths with the Spinners in 1971. Their encounter was almost accidental. Bell had heard rumors of a warehouse janitor with an angelic voice, Billy Henderson, and decided to investigate. What he discovered was a group of forgotten singers who still believed in their music. Bell gave them a second chance, and the result was magic. He produced their biggest hits, I'll Be Around, Could It Be I'm Falling in Love, Rubber Band Man, and Then Came You. Bell's lush orchestration and heartfelt arrangements brought a level of sophistication that set the Spinners apart. Under Bell's guidance, the Spinners earned multiple top 10 hits and sold millions of records. But the collaboration wasn't without friction. Philippe Wynne eventually grew tired of Bell's polished production style, feeling creatively stifled. When Bell refused to adapt to Wynne's more improvisational vision, tensions escalated, eventually leading to Wynne's abrupt departure in 1976. By 1981, the partnership between Tom Bell and the Spinners came to an abrupt end with a phone call that lasted less than 3 minutes. There was no goodbye tour, no formal farewell. Just a cold click on the receiver, marking the end of one of soul music's most fruitful yet emotionally complex collaborations. Tom Bell passed away on December 22, 2003, at the age of 60. Despite the fallout, the Spinners owed much of their peak-era success to his genius. His arrangements elevated their voices, and his vision transformed forgotten Motown backup singers into soulful superstars. His legacy lives in every note of that golden era. Dionne Warwick. Dionne Warwick, born on December 12, 1940, is one of the most iconic female vocalists of all time, renowned for her elegant phrasing, emotional delivery, and her unmatched collaborations with Burt Bacharach and Hal David. But in 1974, she nearly refused to record what would become her biggest hit of the decade, Then Came You, a duet with the Spinners. At the time, Warwick was already an established star, while the Spinners, despite recent chart successes, still carried the stigma of their Motown past, where they were treated as backstage laborers rather than stars. According to the transcript, when approached about the collaboration, Warwick reportedly said, "I don't sing with people who used to do Motown's backstage work." The statement revealed not only her concern about image but also the lingering prejudice the Spinners had fought for decades. Despite her hesitation, the music did the talking. After hearing the final studio track, Warwick reluctantly agreed to move forward with the release. The result was a history-making success. Then Came You became the first and only #1 hit for both Warwick and the Spinners on the Billboard Hot 100. Its soulful blend of Warwick's smooth vocals with the group's harmony-rich delivery marked a rare fusion of pop and Philadelphia soul. Though the collaboration was short-lived, the impact was massive. It bridged generations of soul and pop listeners and gave Warwick renewed commercial success during a transitional phase in her career. For the Spinners, it was a symbolic validation, a moment when their voices stood shoulder to shoulder with a legend. As of June 2, 2025, Dionne Warwick is 84 years old and continues to be celebrated for her vast contribution to American music. Her legacy remains intertwined with the rise of soul, and her reluctant but iconic duet with the Spinners stands as a testament to the unpredictable magic of music history. The story of the Spinners isn't just about chart-topping hits, it's a haunting tale of sacrifice, injustice, and dreams deferred. They gave the world timeless music, but were rewarded with contracts that stole their wealth and moments that robbed them of dignity. As the last notes fade and their names are finally engraved in history, one question remains: was their late recognition enough to honor everything they endured? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. This is Legends of Black Excellence, where we reveal the untold truths behind the music that shaped generations.